And we're back with the M37 from Resident Evil 7. Actually, so I think I found or thought up a decent way to get our pump not to interfere too much with what we have going over here, and that's gonna entail us to, where's our pump? Put our pump a bit on the side like this. So let's say, hmm, 30 degrees? That'd be a little too much, because then you'd be able to see that too. So I was thinking something like this. Unfortunately, you'd still be able to see that. You'd still be able to see these gaps here. Maybe that wouldn't be such a great idea. Maybe I just need to flatten this part. Let's remind ourselves about how thick that is. That is not thick at all. 3 mils. Let me think. Maybe if we took this and let's get these two. I'm going to turn off edge links and get rid of these with C for our circle select, and then shift left click to deselect those. And maybe we can select this to widen it just a bit more. Let's make sure we didn't select anything underside. Okay. And then I'm thinking we can hit S for scale, Z, and then 0 numpad. 0 on the numpad, and then we can flatten it out like so. And then with this as our active, we can hit G, Z, and let's get snap on. And we can snap this over here, just so it's a little less in the way. Doesn't look great, but at least it should bump less into that bit there. It looks kind of hideous, to be honest. But we're gonna need that, because otherwise this will be exposed and very, very visible. I don't want that to be. So, maybe we can at least do that. Alright, so let's go ahead and work on this guy over here. So in order to get that shape, I'm going to go ahead and take this edge loop, and then I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate, and then we're going to hit P and separate selection. I'm going to object mode and grab that circle that we just made. And let's go into this orientation. Well, actually, let's right click and then set origin to geometry so we can get that nice center point there. And then with X-ray on, we'll go ahead and get these guys and hit F. So we got this little measuring line, get edge links back on, and we're going to want to shrink this to 20, let's do 20 millimeters. That way this piece can fit snugly right into this one. And we will pull this back with E to extrude, right click G, Y. We'll pull that back a little bit. And let's get rid of the measuring edge. We're not going to need that. I guess for both of them. We can always put it back if we need it. I'm going to hit F to put a face on that. And now we can start making our cap. Let's go ahead and get rid of edge links again. And we can actually borrow another piece over here. Shift D to duplicate, P, separate selection, and then we're going to take our new circle here, Shift left click in object mode to get both of them, and then we're going to hold Control J to join them in the same object. Now we're going to get these two edge loops, hit 2 to get in edge mode, right click, bridge those edge loops. So now we got that bit going. Now we can extend it out a bit. say E for extrude, right click G, Y, and it's kind of hard to see what's going on there. I think it's sinking down a little and pulls out, and then it kind of widens again. And it looks like maybe it has two ribs, maybe. Maybe it's more like this, this, and then we can borrow this guy. Oh, this guy, Shift D, snap him over there, and get those two edge loops, bridge the edge loops. Oop. Okay, we're gonna use loop tools, and then, okay, they're still complaining at me, so I'm gonna hit A to select all, and Shift N to recalculate normals. That might help. Bridge those edge loops. Try this. It's still acting up. Why? Why are you acting up? And they're part of the same object and everything. Ah, okay. You know what we could do? We could just get all of these. Shift D to duplicate, and just force them over here. And then we will hit A, then let's get auto merge on, clean up, merge by distance, and then I'll fuse them all together. Alright, and let's just Shift D, duplicate this guy, because it looks like there's two of them in there. Two of these little ribs. And then we'll get these two inner rings, see if they want to bridge. There we go. And then it looks like it comes to a kind of rounded boss. So, so I'm going to hit E, right click GY to pull this out, hit F to put the face on that, and then scale it down a bit. And then we're going to bevel the edge to give it some roundness. And what is going on? Oh, auto merge. Let's turn that off. Bevel edge. And there we go. It's not. Because that also merged, unfortunately. Control Z to undo. Then we'll scale it down and there. And bevel. There we go. There we go. Now we have our boss on there. And I feel like it can be a little further out. Let's bevel that again. Yeah, that looks nicer. Alright, so now we're going to bevel these edges. So I don't want them too sharp. Yeah, I think that's it. Bevel. Oop. Hit A for select all and Shift N to recalculate the normals. And for good measure, let's go into mesh, clean up, merge by distance, nothing. Alright, so nothing was duplicated there. Let's get back all these edges and try beveling again. There we go. And let's say it's around here-ish. Some nice rounded components there. Alright, so that's that guy, and he'll just be glued into this. Alright, and we also need you. We need to get that on there. So alright, I got my pipe right here and my calipers, so let's take some measurements. And 26.9 is the diameter for the pipe we're going to use for that barrel. So let's hit F3, cursor to active, to put our cursor over here. Shift A, mesh, circle, and then 26.9 divided by 2, because that's radius. And then we can rotate our circle 90 degrees, then G, Z to pull it up here. Just stand in for our barrel. And we'll go into vertices mode. Let's pull it back a little bit, then extrude, right click G, Y. That way we know about where we need to get this. So I'm thinking it'll protrude from this guy. Alright, to hold on to the barrel. Now I'm thinking how we're going to do that, because it needs to be kind of strong, since every time we pump, we're going to be putting a lot of stress on these joints, and we want them to be pretty strong to be able to withstand that stress. So I was thinking we could thread a screw, a steel screw, all the way through and into there, but mm, I'd like to put a nut on the inside of the barrel, and since the barrel's kind of long, I don't know how we're going to get that going. That'd be kind of tricky. Not impossible. Maybe you can use some forceps or some tweezers or something to go in there to hold the nut in place while you do that. Or we can just screw it in to the pipe and hope that the threading from the screw is enough to bite into the pipe to keep that in place. Either way, we're probably going to use a screw. So let's make a screw hole. And for that, I'm going to need a screw. Oh, actually, I got one right here. Let's get the diameter for this guy. Alright, so 4.3. So we need 0.5 millimeters thicker than that. So we're going to go Shift A, Mesh, Circle. 4.3 plus 0.5 is 4.8. And then let's divide that by 2. Since again, that is radius. And that's going to be our screw hole size. Um, hmm. You know, wait. This is all going to be 3D printed, right? This isn't going to be a pipe. Yeah, I guess we're going to have to do that. I was thinking if it was a pipe, the pipe would be a lot stronger than the PVC, I mean the PLA, so we can screw into the pipe instead of this bit, but all of this is going to be 3D printed, so actually we can just put a screw through this and hope for the best, I guess. Let's get on here and guess you'll go right in here. If that's the case, let's go ahead and widen this just a little bit. Let's put this guy about in the middle of that, more or less. And I guess we can print it all as one part then. Yeah, so let's go ahead and make that little bit that'll kind of press against the top barrel. So, maybe we'll take these faces. Maybe take a few more. These faces. Maybe a little less. Just deselecting those. Seems okay. And then I'm going to hit E to extrude. And then I'm going to hit Z so we can go straight up and down. And then we could just circle select over here. How wide is this again? Let's see. 26.9. So we want to go around that because that's the size of the pipe. And let's make this edge our active. And then we'll hit S Shift Y so we can just go along the X and the Z. Then we'll go up to 27.4. Might not make much of a difference. And then we could get rid of this side And then let's pull this over here with GY. And then we will edit mode this part, control, left click on this, and then we can knife project. Project, cut through. Oh, and that gave us our curve that we're going to need to meet up with that pipe. And we'll delete that top part, and then we'll just put a screw through that. So let's take these two edge loops. Whoops. I don't think we need this anymore, so I'm going to hide it with H, and then I'm going to go back into this with edit mode. I'm not sure why I can't select that whole edge loop. Let's just get all of these. And in edge mode, get rid of this in the selection with circle select, that's C, and then right click, bridge edge loops. So that should do that. And then we're going to use this hole down here, and we're going to knife project through all the way through the top. So with that selected, edit mode, control left click on U, then we'll get this bottom orientation, mesh, knife project, cut through. Didn't do as awesome a job as I had hoped. So let's make sure there's no internal geometry. It doesn't look like it. Let's go ahead and hit A for all and then Shift N to recalculate those normals and see if that doesn't help. Edit mode with you, control left click. It's not letting me. Where is it? Circle 5. Okay. Control left click over here. Oh no. Edit mode, control click over here. Mesh, knife project, and that time it went the way we wanted. That's looking much better. Much better. Alright, so let's get rid of these edges. And then we can get these edge loops. Just Alt left click and then Alt Shift left click to add this one. Get into edge mode, right click, bridge edge loops. Now we got a nice hole going through. So that'll be our screw hole, and we'll screw from the bottom into the top. So we should have a screw head down here, and hopefully that'll be strong enough to hold on to that. I would like to put a nut through, but we'll have to see how we do that later once we have everything assembled or being assembled. Since we're probably going to print this with this face down, I think I want to do this trick that I use to prevent the need for, well, considering how small this is and then we go all the way through, I don't think that's actually necessary. So we'll be fine. We'll be fine. So we got that, we got that. This is going to be PVC. And we do have a tiny little sight over here. I mean, it would be nice to put it on. I wonder. You know what? We could use this curve to create that. Let's take maybe these in between. Let's not get this one. Let's not get too complicated. Shift D to duplicate that. These aren't the cleanest curve. Knife project doesn't always do an awesome job. You know what? Since we still have that circle somewhere, where are you? I hope I didn't delete it. Let's hit Alt H to unhide everything. There we go. And this time we will take that seems kind of wide for an iron sight, but that seems kind of small. So let's subdivide these two edges, and then we'll take these. Is that gonna be good? Shift D to duplicate, then P, separate selection. And we'll hide this guy again. I'll go into edit mode, and let's bring this up here with extrude. And then we'll extrude again, pulling it back, right click, G, Y. So, and then I think we'll take it down. So extruding again, G, Y, and then we'll take this top one and G, Z, and go downward. Yeah, it can be a little longer. And maybe this face can be a little shorter. And that can work for our iron sight at the front there. And that'll just be glued on since it's not going to need to support any stress or anything like that. Just try not to bang it on anything. So we got our pump, we got our cap. All this is doing okay, I think. I'm still a little concerned if these two are going to bump into each other. You know what? Let's bring back that circle. That's what's going to be here. And it does look like it still hits, unfortunately. But is that accurate? Let's take this circle. Let's just see with a GY. Um, hmm. It's like right under. So ideally, this would actually be, I don't know how to describe, but kind of concave or convex or something under that. But that would make this so thin. That do worry me. Hmm, hmm, hmm. Monkey must think. So... this might work. I'm gonna delete those because they're already kind of set in place. I'm gonna hide this reference image for a moment. And then let's get some fresh ones over here. Get rid of this. Shift D, using the 3D cursor, which I think is at the center of this. I'm going to rotate using Control and rotate that 90 degrees. You can get everything. Let's get this as well. This, then Shift D, rotate 90 degrees, clap that on there. Just merge everything. And then we can kind of start over. Seal that up. Get rid of these two, and then we'll bridge those edge loops. And do the same over here. Boop, boop. Bridge those edge loops. And then I was thinking we could take these and try to mirror them. Let's use median point. I think we're going to have to Shift D and then mirror along the Z global. So we get something like this. Turn snap off. This, because that would really help with the barrel being able to slide through here. But this is going to be so thin, And that kind of needs to be durable. That is the problem. And the only way I can readily think to fix that. Let's take this edge loop here. Maybe not even those. Maybe we can use proportional editing and kind of grab that down like this. So there is that gap there. Let's see how wide a gap that got us. Edge lengths, 0.3. That's not even enough. I need to go down a bit more. So I need at least 0.5 millimeters for things to slide past each other like that. Proportional editing, snap. And how long was that? 0.5, so that's about there. And then we can take these bits. Just make sure, yeah. And then I'm going to hit SZ0 on the numpad to flatten that out. And then we can turn off snap. That a little higher so the pump can fit properly. I mean, that does give us our groove, so the pipe shouldn't interfere. It seems like it's high enough that it also won't mess around with that piece there. We can actually manually bring this down a bit so it's not so hideous. Not selecting that, but definitely selecting you. Bring it down. Bring it down. Bring you down. Why does this look so weird? Not sure, but since everything is divided already in half, we could just mirror this. Let's say select, no. Select one of these middle vertices and then select side of active. Let's go Y, and that'll work. Then select invert, right click, delete. So now we just have half of this thing. Then we'll go over here to modifiers, add modifier, generate, mirror, and then we'll go across the Y and get rid of the X. So now everything's nicely mirrored, except for whatever's going on over there. That also means we need a face here, since we deleted that face. Anything else seems okay. And then we can go back here and move these a little rounder. It's probably fine. I hope it's fine. We can always make adjustments later, but I think that'll do for the pump, maybe, hopefully. Then there's also the magnets I was thinking of. Now, another thing that occurred to me is when you put in the shell and then you pump all the way back, the shell's going to fly outward. But we like to put in the shell and then pump, because that would normally bring the shell up to the breech, and then you'd fire, and then you pump, and then the shell would go flying. So I thought of a way to do that, which is bringing the pump back only halfway. That would load the shell up here, and then going back, once you put in the shell, you go back halfway. the shell goes up here, and then after you fire or pretend to fire, then you could pull the pump all the way back, which would cause the spring to push the shell all the way out. So I'm thinking we can use magnets to create 3 positions, one up front, one halfway, and then one all the way back to get that going. But these are so thin. Let me get a magnet just so I can get the size. Okay, so we got the magnets, and I already got the measurements for these, but 5.9, 5.9 by 3, basically 6 by 3. Let me update my notes. By 3. All right. So the holes we need for these magnets to be set into, the sockets for the magnets need to be 6.5 by 2.3. That way the magnets hopefully stick out just the tiniest bit. Maybe we should make it 2. 6 by 5 by 2. Or something. We'll have to do some experimentation. And anyway, shift. We want our magnets around here. We're gonna 3D print this. How thick is this wall? 3. So that'll be enough, but just barely. I'm thinking, should we put the magnets on the bottom or the top? I feel like we got too much going on the top already, so maybe we should put the magnets on the bottom. Where do we want to put them? Probably around here-ish. So one here, and let's go ahead and get some keyframes on here for the pump. So I'm gonna put one here. We'll see a little dot go up here, and let's go up to 12. Put another one around halfway. One here, and then let's go up to 24, and then one all the way back, maybe around here-ish. That way we'll know where to put our magnets. Alright, so simplest way to do this. Shift A. Alright, mesh, circle. This is going to be 6 divided by 2. Right, because that's radius. We're going to grab this guy, move him over here. And let's put it at the very first rib. That way we don't have to reach in too far to stick our magnets in anywhere. And maybe around here-ish. And then you know what we'll do? We'll parent that to this with left-clicking on this, and then shift left-clicking on this, and then Control P, and then set parent to object. That way that moves along with our pump. And that's going to be useful because we're going to knife project into both our pump, edit mode, control left click, and then this downward orientation, mesh, knife project, cut through. We don't need all of that. Wait. Instead of messing around with cut through all of that, you know what we could do is hide everything up here, and then we can actually put this guy up here and then just cut through that part. It'll make the mesh a little less messy. I think that'll be a good thing. Let's get that. And let's try to click on our circle or control click. Yeah, we got it. Awesome. All right, going up here. Going on at the top now. Mesh, knife project, not cut all the way through. Right, and then we can use E to extrude and go down. Hit Z twice to go up and down. And I think that was 2? 2 millimeters, right? Yeah. So that should make our little socket for our magnet. And we don't need this. Can't see anything. Let's hide these other pieces for a moment. And yeah, it's about what we want. All right, so that has its magnet. Now we can put some magnets into the underbarrel. So let's go ahead and hide this guy. We have our circle, and these need to go on the outside. So with this, the underbarrel and edit mode, we'll control left click on our circle, get this under, mesh, knife project, and then we'll extrude, push this up along the Z axis. I can't see. And we'll put that at 2 millimeters as well. And then moving towards the 12, we need another one. Edit mode, control left click, that, knife project, it's invert inside sight, 2 millimeters. Yeah. And then over to 24, which is the last position. And you know, it would be good. This is the pump actually covers those holes for the most part. I guess not when we're down. But when we're up, it covers all the magnet holes. So that's nice. Let's hide that again. And our last knife project for this one. Control, downward orientation, knife project. And let's move this up along the Z to 2 millimeters. Okay, so those are our magnet holes. So our pump should be about done, I think. So now with that out of the way, we can focus on this breach, but I think we'll save that for next time. Yeah, so we're almost done with this one. All right, thanks for tuning in. And if you don't want to go through all this modeling, I do have the STL files needed to print all of my 3D printable props available to supporters over on my Patreon. We currently have over 40 props available and are adding more all the time. This prop will also be made available once it's finished. So if you'd like to skip the modeling and gain access to an entire armory of 3D printable props, check out my Patreon, link in the description. It is only $5 a month and you gain access to the entire armory of over 40 props. Staying a member ensures you get access to everything new added to the armory immediately and of course, very much helps support the channel. Speaking of supporting, we have to show our gratitude to M. John Simon, a real hero of the channel, supporting at the hero tier. Become a hero to get yourself special mention in these very videos, and as always, like and subscribe to ensure you never miss out on the next video. Until then, I have been Ken with Kenjutsu Bring It to Life, and I am out.